All right, perfect. So welcome to the webinar. Today we're going to be talking about switch access using a Chromebook. And I am Heidi Brislin. I'm an occupational therapist and I work as an assistive technology specialist for SETC and in the Edmonds School District. So super happy to be sharing this information with you today, and definitely has been a little bit of quite a bit of learning for me. Go ahead, Linda.
It helps to unmute. So I am Linda Doehle, and I'm an AT specialist with the Special Education Technology Center. I used to be an AT specialist and a speech language assistant in the Yakima School District. And before that, I was a computer programmer. So that's what got me into this technical side of assistive technology.
Okay. And then just kind of a description, I think from many districts have transitioned from to Google Chrome and Chromebooks as one-to-one tools for students. And so I did a iPad webinar or switch access webinar earlier in the year. And I was like, you can't use switches on a Chromebook. And then as soon as I finished the thing, I was like, oh crud. Yes, you can. So here I am showing you how to use on your Chromebook. And so we'll cover how to connect it to a switch interface and some ideas for some activities to use with switch users. So that's kind of the what we're going to do. And we're going to describe how to set up a Chromebook for switch activities and list 1 or 2 switch activities that can be done on a Chromebook. All right, so what do you need to use switches on a Chromebook? I had number 5 here. I forgot what I was going to put in there, but oh, it was in the switch access guide. So you're going to need your Chromebook. You're going to need a Bluetooth switch interface or a plug and play switch interface. And I'm going to tell you right off the start here, if you have some type of, and we'll go through the ones that you can just plug in and then put your switches in. The plug-in ones are a little more consistent with the Chromebooks. I find that the Bluetooth connection tends to be a little glitchy, maybe a lot glitchy. So I was able to finally get my Bluetooth to pair and the switches to talk in the Chromebook, but it took it versus my my very simple, easy switch interface here that is only has space and enter. The minute I plugged it in, everything worked. So anyway, so just to know that sometimes the hardwired with the Chromebook is a little more reliable. And then what I would recommend is if you're setting up switches on the Chromebook for the first time, go to this guide, and we'll put a we'll share in the chat the link to the handout.
Yeah.
So this literally talks you through every single step to do it. And when I went today to set mine up again, is if you go to, it's under keyboard. So that's the thing you're going to have to remember, is that your switch access is under keyboard, which makes it not really intuitive. It's under accessibility and then keyboard accessibility. And then you turn it on. And so the switch access, Linda will show you an example of kind of what happens with that. But then if you go to the setup guide, you have to go to the setup guide to get them set up correctly. And it talks you kind of through the whole process. So if you're starting off with 1 switch and you want to go to 2 switches, the way it goes is there's 1 switch, and then there's a little button where you can check and say add 1 more switch or 2 or more switches. And so today I was trying to just use 2 switches, and I had selected the 2 or more, and it wouldn't work. I had to go back and change it to add 1 more. So there's just a little bit of just kind of some nuances on the Chromebook that are different than other devices, but it'll talk you how to do manual scan, point scanning, you know, complete, you know, some other tasks. The thing to know is if you're in, once you get the switches set up and you go through that setup guide, if you are using a Google slide deck to turn pages, you're in Tar Heel Reader, and just turning pages, or you're in like Tar Heel Gameplay or the Help Kids Learn activities, you can go back and turn switch control off. Because otherwise you'll have the scanning kind of going around the page. So that is that piece. Did I miss anything, Linda, on that?
I don't think so. And I did put the link in the chat to the switch access. And the only thing I just want to say is it does have, like Heidi said, some nuances, but when I pulled it up and just did it step by step, it was pretty easy to go through it. I made sure I had that guide up, and then I just walked through it step by step. So
yeah, it does.
Well, I wanted to ask a quick question. So when you're using a online program that's already set up to use switches, you don't have to go into the Chromebook settings, anything on the Chromebook around switch access when you're accessing a program online that's already set up for certain keystrokes for access.
So you have to go in and set up your switches, is what I found. You have to go in and just go do the setup guide and set up the switches, and then you can turn it off.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
yeah. At this point, I don't want to go off track, but do you want me to share the screen on my Chromebook and pull that up so that you can see what we're talking about?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so I'm to the side, so because my camera's over there, but I think you're going to be able to see this. I hope. Okay.
Oh, I probably need to. Oh, there we go. Good.
Okay. So you're seeing my screen. Okay. So I am just going to come down here, and I have my accessibility just always available on the little tray. And then I'm going to come down to switch access. And I'll go into, whoops, sorry. That's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to cancel. Are you sure you want to turn it off? Yes. I meant to go into the settings. And so I'm going to go to the accessibility and then into settings. So it takes me straight into the accessibility settings. I don't have to go through advanced. And then I'm going to scroll down to the keyboard, and I should see switch access right here. And so I'm going to click on that. And then I have options. And so I'm going to click on that. And then this is what Heidi was just talking about. You have to still set your switch action assignment. I don't want to make you guys dizzy, but I'm going to take my camera. So if you're going to get seasick, close your eyes for a second, because I'm going to move my camera. So I'm going to bring it over here, and I think you're going to be able to see. Well, I'm showing my screen, so you can't. So, okay, so what you're going to see here, I'll show it to you in a minute, is select is enter, and next is space. And now I actually added a switch, but then didn't use it. And so that would be previous, and I don't have a third switch. Okay, so when I want to move to my next option, I'm giving the space command. And when I want to select it, I'm giving the enter command. And I'm going to stop sharing so that you guys can see on my Don Johnston switch. I hope it's going to get clear.
I think it's because your background is, there you go.
There. So I have it set. Okay. I wonder if it is because my background's blurred, and
yeah,
I've tried to do that in the middle of the presentation, and it's not great when I try to do that, but I don't know if I can get closer. What I have done on the Don Johnston is I have selected the yellow row. And so I have one switch attached where it says space, and then one switch attached where it says enter. Okay, so sorry that isn't there. Maybe you can see that a little bit better. Okay, so then I have this blue.
And I have a picture of one coming up, Linda.
Yeah, and I have it on a video also. So, okay, again, I'm going to move my camera, so close your eyes if you get dizzy.
The thing to know is if you, because I discovered this today, is if you set up your, so I initially set everything up with my simple switch interface. which I love. It's that simple. And so when I went through the setup guide to set up my switches, it was set up with a USB switch, like you saw on Linda's, it said USB next to it. So when I went to today to set it up with my switch to scan, I couldn't get it to change from like the USB to the switch to scan to the Bluetooth one. And so I had to go back through the setup guide. So if you're switching like whatever interface you're using, you're going to need to go back through the setup guide to get it to recognize, but it's super easy. It talks you right through it. So that's the nice thing about that. Okay, let's see.
Ask a quick question.
Mhm.
You have to
Sure.
reset this up every time you go to use it? No, once you turn
No.
it on, it would be accessible?
Yeah. As long as you're using the same setup.
Okay.
Yeah. So as long as you're using, if I would have plugged this in today, everything would have been fine. So it's not every time. So just a couple little, and usually if you pick a switch interface for a student, you're not switching to something different. You've kind of got it set up, but that was one of the things I was like, I can't make this work with my Bluetooth. And that was why. Okay, so let's talk about, these are what I consider plug and play. And so there's something that has a USB port that plugs into the Chromebook. And if your Chromebook, some of the newer Chromebooks, I'm not sure if they still have a USB port. But if you have some new ones, you might have to buy a little, USB to USB-C 3 to plug in. And then all of these interfaces will work fine. So Inclusive Technology has the multi-switch. I have not used that. Has anybody used the multi-switch? No. The Hitch 2 is from AbleNet, and it is what is replacing the Don Johnson Switch Interface Pro. So the Don Johnson Switch Interface Pro here is no longer made, but if you find them in your AT closet, do not get rid of them because they are awesome. So this kind of replaces that, but these are fantastic. And with either one of these, you can hook it up to one of these guys and put it in your iPad if you've got one that's this to a lightning USB. So they'll work on iPad, Chromebook, laptop, you name it. So that's the nice thing about these. The Simple Switch Interface Pro, it has space and enter. So if that's all you're going to be using, it's really easy for staff to use. You're not having to worry about what light you have on. I have not used the Crick USB. Oops, sorry about that. Let's see if I can go back. I have not used the Crick USB one either, but it looks like it's set up to do 4 switches. And usually on the back, it kind of tells you what the different ports do. So then the Bluetooth switches are, there's the Bluetooth. Has everybody used a Bluetooth? They're pretty easy. It's probably one of my favorite wireless ones because it's kind of a no-brainer. And then there's a couple of Praetorian ones. There's the applicator, there's the switch to scan, switcher 4. So there's a variety of those and they work pretty well. But again, that Bluetooth, I've just found like, especially, I have a senior in high school that I work with, and he was trying to use the Glass House glasses as a mouse simulator, and they connect by Bluetooth and they would come connected and disconnected like all the time. And same thing for his wheelchair joystick that he was using as a mouse simulator, it would come connected and disconnected. So, I'm kind of, it's already hard enough for kids to access things. And if we're giving them like a switch interface that makes things even harder, that's just not fair. So I like to try to like not have the technology be the obstacle to them being able to access it, or not have it take like 15 minutes to get it set up. So on the Chromebooks, as much as you can, I mean, you certainly can use these. And if you have a really competent team that can muster through things, they're fine. But on the Chromebooks, I think they just do better because they're relying on so much internet stuff to be able to do what they need to do, that the ones that you plug in seem to work a little better. that make sense? All right, so I know so here I put, I'll clarify this more. If you're just using select and enter, you don't need to turn on switch access, and I'll add like once you get it set up initially. But I'm going to show you a document here that I'm going to share with you that I created. And have any of you used switches within Google Slides? Okay, so we'll go to look at that. So what I did is created just a reference sheet that you can have, and there's a YouTube video of how to make books using Google Slides. And so it's about 12 minutes long. It takes about that long to make a 6-page book. So quick, easy. So if in your classroom they're studying, you know, life cycles of a tree, you can, I mean, there's other places you could get that, but you could quickly put together a life cycles of the tree book. You can also look in Tar Heel Reader and probably find one already made. So you can also take have any of you used Tar Heel Reader at all? A little bit? Okay, so we'll go into that as well. You can take a Tar Heel Reader book and save it as a Google slide deck. And so the video shows the steps for how to do that. So then you can just follow that, and that's a much shorter video. It's like 2 minutes. So a lot of times if I'm looking to make like a book out of Google Slides, I might just jump right into Tar Heel Reader and see if I can find the book. And then you can change the background and do all sorts of things. But it's super quick. So these are some videos that are helpful. And then here, because we all learn a little bit differently, I have the step-by-step, I have a printed guide for how to do that. If you want to follow the step-by-step. If you follow the step-by-step and I missed a step, let me know. Because sometimes I think when you kind of know how to do it, you kind of forget, oh, there was that one click I missed. And so that is that. And then I'm going to show you one of the books that I created, so you can kind of see what. So, you know, we're doing a book study in our district on the comprehensive literacy for all book. And so looking at a way to do some alphabet and phonemic awareness. So I just, like I said, I literally threw this together. And so you put it in present mode, and then the switch just moves them forward through, somehow I have an extra slide in there. And then how to make the pictures fade in and fade out is all on the video for how to do that. But super easy to make something, you know, comparable to whatever they're doing in the classroom. If they're studying volcanoes, you can pull together a volcano thing pretty easy. So that's that. So pretty fun, pretty easy. We're going to delete this slide because I don't know why it's there. Maybe we're going to delete it. We'll just ignore it. Okay, so that is that. I'll show you the Tar Heel Reader book. So
Heidi,
with yes.
sorry, there is a question in the chat that you
Okay.
could actually have audio with these books too, right? So that it would actually read to them.
Kristen, I am having a hard time figuring out how to make that work in Google Slides. So I need to do some, I know in PowerPoint you definitely can. I'm not, I think you'd have to turn on like read and write for Google to get it to work in the Google Slides. Google Slides is not super accessible unless someone knows the answer. I have a student who's blind and she's like, they are not, when she presented with me, I had to read all her slides to her because the screen reader doesn't work so well in Google Slides. A PowerPoint, you can do it in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I was like trying to figure that out. I'm like, that's so easy in PowerPoint. Why can't I do it? So anyway, so I'm just going to click through it this way so you can, you know, so this was one I just saved so that they could go through it. So that, go back.
So if
here.
someone had the question about how do I advance through that? The answer would be what?
Oh, for the one I was just doing?
Yeah, like for Google Slide and for Tar Heel, what would that look like as far as the interface and the switch setup?
It's space and enter.
All right, thank you. I needed a little review.
So like this only has space and enter. And so it just lets you go through it. So you can set it up for one switch, and if it's enter, every time they hit enter, it'll go through. Katrina, it looks like you have your hand up.
Yeah, I haven't played with the Google Slides so much, and I used to a long time ago. I know that there was a capability of using on PowerPoint. There's like a translator's tool so that the subtitles can show up in whatever language that you wanted in real time. I was just curious if you knew if that was a tool that we have in the Google Suite. Like I could click and choose subtitles so that even though it's written in English, if we were able to sync the audio of the book being read aloud and then also click the box that said translate so that additional subtitles populate the bottom of the screen. So whether it's a parent or a child who's learning English but does read in their home language, just curious if it had language capabilities like that. For I have a couple ELL.
I know Google, I mean, I know that is a capability in Google. I am not sure how well it works in Google Slides, but when we jump over to Tar Heel Reader, you can search books by languages.
Cool.
So, and those are switch accessible as well. So you don't have to convert the Tar Heel Reader. This is just a way to, I want to put some activities in their drive that they don't have to go out on the internet and find. Here's a way to do that. I'm hoping that we're going to see Google Slides become more and more accessible, especially for people who need that text reading support, but it's just not quite there yet.
I can address that as of last fall still. When I was using that, I would always use my PowerPoint to get that translation feature. So it still was not available last fall. Even when I presented with Google Slides, I would have PowerPoint in the background doing that translation. So, but that may be something, that's always something to check back on, because, they always add so that it seems like each one will add so they have what the other one has. So, and we're talking about Google Slides, but if you have PowerPoint accessible to your students, they could always do what we're talking about with PowerPoint. They could use their switches on a Chromebook in PowerPoint online, right, Heidi? Couldn't they? I guess we haven't tried that.
Yes. PowerPoint, this works beautifully in PowerPoint. So a lot of times what I've done is I've found these activities, like a choice activity, like a choice board, that I was able to make in PowerPoint. And then I went to go do it in Google Slides, and there's one feature that Google Slides doesn't have. And so then I couldn't get it to move through the choices and then go back to the first choice. I'm hoping you're gonna start seeing, more and more similarities in things. All right, so Tar Heel Reader. If you have never used Tar Heel Reader, you are in for a treat. So I'm going to take you there. So when you go to the homepage, this is where you end up. You can write books and then publish them to here, or publish them just so your students can see them. There is a password, and I wish I could. I'm not supposed to say it out loud on anything or put it in anything, but I think I'll put it in the chat. I think this is, I'm not 100% sure. I will find out and let you guys know, because I think it is this. I don't know if that's it either, but we'll try. I think it's that. They just switched it, but if not, if you just email them, they'll tell you what it is. So we're going to go to find a book. Anybody have a particular book they'd like me to try to find? All right, so I'm here. And so I was in here the other day and I was kind of looking for books that might be for like older kiddos, that would be that stuff that they might be reading about. And so someone has taken several of these, like Anne of Green Gables. Let's go ahead and take that one. Now, I'm going to talk to you through a couple of features. So Tar Heel Reader in and of itself is switch accessible. So if you go to the cog here, you can select the speech and it will read it. You can have it be silent. You can have it be a child, a woman, a man, or a built-in. I have found that the man is just a little bit clearer and a little bit less robotic, but I would let the kid pick what they like. I'll do the built-in here so we can, hold on. I'm going to share my sound here in just a second. And I'm going to change that because the built-in one is really horrible. It just read in my ears. So we're going to try
About
this.
Anne of Green Gables by L. Montgomery 1-5.
Could you guys hear that? Yeah, so they're all kind of robotic. The thing I love about Tar Heel Reader is you can change the background colors right here. So I can change they normally come white with black font. So I have already changed this to yellow, but let's say I want it to be cyan. Maybe.
About Anne of Green Gables by L. Montgomery 1-5.
And then I want my font to be, I want my text color to be, I don't know, let's go for magenta.
About Anne of Green Gables by L. Montgomery 1-5.
Then the other thing I learned is if you want to just go back to where everything was, you can just hit default and it'll go back to where everything was. And then if you click more, you can actually go in there and change everything all at once, which is kind of nice to see. But I did not realize this. You can change the button size. So you can take the buttons from being normal sized,
About Anne of Green
which are these
Gables
little
by L.
buttons down
Montgomery
here,
1-5.
or all the way up to extra large.
About Anne of Green Gables by L. Montgomery 1-5.
So then if you have someone who is working on some mouse skills or mouse emulation skills, they have a much bigger target to kind of hit over here. And then you would just click, that would be your select button.
This book was written a long time ago by L.M. Montgomery. It takes place on the farm called Green Gables. Anne was a girl with red hair. She didn't have a place to live. She wanted a home and family of her own. Matthew and Marilla Cuthbert were a brother and sister who lived at Green Gables.
So we won't read the whole book. But there are all sorts of things when you go in to find a book here. So you can do a search. So let's say I just want to look at books in, anybody have a language that they want to look in?
We need to have another process taking place.
There's so many
Right, and I just wanted to
dialects
say that we'll have,
the one that they're using when they
remember, we'll have.
Oops, Katrina, I didn't hear you. Oh, the rate of the narrator's reading? I do not know if you can change that. I have tried, but what is there a language you wanted me to? I'm going to pick. You're muted.
Sorry, for a couple of the languages that have more than one dialect, like from Filipino, I know Tagalog is a very common dialect, but I'm not sure if that's what it is because I don't speak Tagalog. Same with Chinese, like maybe it's Mandarin because that's very common as opposed to Cantonese, but I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and I don't see I mean, they're not there's not nearly as many. I'm going to pick Spanish just because. And then you can go all topics, reviewed only, rated E for everybody, and let's see what they've got in Spanish. So here's, a whole bunch that have been translated to Spanish. And then if that doesn't look like they're, you can go to more books. The thing is, once you set the background color for the student and the font color, it just stays like that every time they log on. So that's kind of nice. But let's say I wanted to look at dogs. So that then you can,
A mí me gustan los perros.
I don't think you can change the rate. I was looking for that the other day. Anyway, so that is Tar Heel Reader, but it is just it's a great way to, it's totally free. And it's a great way to kind of get some accessible books for your kiddos. And I know, like I was doing a unit on acorns with my students. And so I found like a whole oak tree book that was already done in Tar Heel Reader. And we were able to kind of, you know, go through it and use that. So it's a great tool. And then Tar Heel Gameplay, a lot of people don't know about Tar Heel Gameplay, but it's a great way to go in and find a gameplay. And so you can, of course, Barney shows up on the first page. Let's do I Need a Cookie.
Now what starts with the letter C? Cookie starts with C. Let's think of other things that starts with C. Who cares about the other things? C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. C is for cookie, that's good enough for me.
I need cookie.
And so then it just stops, and for them to get Cookie Monster to play again.
C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Oh, cookie, cookie, cookie starts with C. Oh, C is for cookie, that's good enough for me.
And they get quite a bit of bang for their buck, which is nice.
That's good enough for me. C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Oh.
I need cookie.
And then they would hit it again. And the thing about Tar Heel Gameplay and both Tar Heel Reader is if you look at the topics, there's all sorts of things: machine science, sports, video games, video. There's a lot of like teen singers, you know. So if you look at, let's look at video search. Looks like someone has been doing like Harry Styles and Ed Sheeran, you know. So there's a whole bunch of you know, really age respectful kind of music in there as well. So you can find stuff for each of them. And so, you know, for all sorts of age groups. So that is Tar Heel Gameplay. Any questions on that? Again, free, totally free. So I'm all about free. What about Help Kids Learn, the games and activities? Have you guys used those at all? Okay, I'm going to show you the Help Kids Learn video. They're great because they usually are just space and enter. So again, your simple little switch will work, you know, so any of your interfaces will work. It's a subscription. And so they're pretty reasonable. I think a five licenses is like $229 for the year, and a site-wide license for like one whole school is like $299. I was just checking, and a lot of times they'll give you a deal if you're working on it. But here's a short little video from Help Kids Learn, so you can see all the things that the games and activities work on.
You booked a sunny Verbo ski chalet.
We're going on vacation
with endless
first,
views of snow-covered peaks.
Help Kids Learn, Games and Activities provides over 200 accessible game-based learning activities, categorized by learning objectives and designed to engage, motivate, and teach a progression of skills. Starting at cause and effect and early interaction, through to a range of skills enabling users to make independent choices. Learning objectives are split into key milestones, representing targets, in a series of small, achievable steps. For example, attention and timing helps develop skills such as focused timing, impulsiveness moderation, and improving attention and concentration. These activities are ideal for those learners who have already gained an understanding of cause and effect and are learning to activate their access device at the right time. Games and Activities features multiple access methods for your users to choose from. These include mouse, 1 or 2 switches, eye gaze, and touch. When selecting a game, you can now see other similar games to play within the series. Parents and teachers can quickly select similar games their users enjoy playing, helping them stay motivated, engaged, and above all having fun. You can play games and activities anywhere, whether it's on a desktop PC or a tablet device. Sign up for a free trial or purchase a subscription today. Only at Help.
So they do give like a, how is it, a 15-day free trial, Linda? You're muted, sorry.
Yes, I just signed up for it. It might be, it's a, yes, because I just signed up for it and it will go for about 2 weeks. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so it's about a 2-week trial. So make sure that when you sign up for it, that you're ready to play with it. Because that was my mistake with one of them, is I signed up for it and I wasn't quite ready to play with it yet. So then you just have to sign up with like a different email. Great activity. They have a lot of iPad apps as well. But I love the Help Kids Learn activities. So I'm gonna go over here, and Linda, this is you.
And what I did was actually recorded using their Switch It Maker ready-made. So I think I have it pulled up, so maybe I'll, I mean, you can probably press play, but I have it pulled up, so I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, yep.
And then I will, I'm just looking at which screen I have it set on, but I do have it on this one. Okay. Okay, so I did have, yeah, right here. Okay. And so you can see my setup here that I showed you a little earlier, my Chromebook, my Don Johnson switch interface, and then I have my blue is next choice, and then orange is select. And I set it up like what you saw on the switch setup, where I had told it what the 2 switches are, but I did not activate switch access. So it's just plugged in. They were, you know, told what they did. So I'll just let you watch this. I'm going to go ahead and I'll see if I might mute myself talking just because it's not very clear, but let me play it. Maybe you will have to, Heidi. Let me see if I go to full screen, if it'll, I'm not sure why it won't play. So does it play through? Heidi, can you get it to play? I'm not sure why it's not playing on mine.
Is this because you're screen sharing a Chromebook, or have you tried that before, where you show a video while you're on Zoom?
I'm actually
on
screen
Chromebook.
sharing. I am screen sharing my Surface. I'm not on.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's not it.
This is to
There we go.
demonstrate how switches will work with the Chromebook using Choose It Maker Ready-Made. I have attached 2 switches using a Don Johnston Switch Interface Pro. The blue switch is attached to the space, and the orange switch is attached to enter. So those are the key presses that will be returned. On my Choose It Maker, I have set the settings for 2 switches. Switch 1 needs to either be a space or a 1, and switch 2 needs to either be an enter or a 3. I have not activated switch access on the Chromebook. I have simply plugged the switches in. At this point, I'm going to scan through using the the blue switch, which will be like next, next, next. If I want to know what my instructions are, I can select the speaker button.
Find the red ball.
And now I can go to next, and the red ball could be selected with the orange switch.
Red. Find the white ball.
Again, I can move forward and then select.
Now you don't get the reward if you get the wrong one.
That I did not even have to
Find
use
the orange brick.
I did not even have to use the switch access on the Chromebook. I just had to plug my switches in.
Okay. So help kids.
This
So
is to demonstrate
sorry.
how
It won't stop playing for me, Linda. So Choose It Maker ready-mades have some ready-made things in literacy, numeracy, and science. Seems like if you're looking at comprehension stuff, most of the comprehension stuff is in the science section. The rest are just kind of numeracy skills and literacy, some of the fundamental skills. But science is literacy and math as well. So it's like, I think you can jump into any of them. They are made by Help Kids Learn or Inclusive Technologies. And then Choose It Maker has one that is not a ready-made, where it's just Choose It Maker, and you can create your own activities in there. And it is pretty easy and simple. The one challenge is you can't get like one license where you have Help Kids Learn, Choose It Maker ready-mades, and Choose It Maker. So they end up being 3 different subscriptions. And so that can be, it just ends up costing a little more. So you have to kind of play with, which you think would best work for your students. I like to use the Choose It Maker, and it's pretty easy to, like, if say the kids are reading a Pete the Cat book and you want to look at their comprehension for Pete the Cat, you can quickly go in and add some, like if it's the buttons, you can add some math things like 4 minus 1 equals, how many buttons did he have? What did he do when his buttons popped off? So you can check some comprehension things, and you can go from 2 choices to a whole bunch of choices. So they're pretty easy to use. And
this is to demonstrate how
we're going to keep going. Okay. There you go, Miss Linda.
Okay, so I wanted to just give you a chance to see that you could do, or just at least talk to you, you can do auto scanning, where if you set that up, it's going to just go between certain buttons on your screen. It works great, except that it's trying its best to figure out which buttons you would want to go to. So it, depending on what screen you're on, it may go to the buttons you want, it may not. It tends to, when you're on just the Chrome browser, it tends to go from the address bar to the section where you have your 3, the minus, the resize, and the X, that will be there. And then if you choose that, you can choose between those. So it will scan, and I'll try to show these to you I'll talk about it, and then we'll see how it works to show it to you. Okay. And I do have a video made if we need it for part of it. But you can also do something called point scanning. That requires at least 2 switches, but it will allow you to pick a specific place on the screen that you can choose. And so it brings it in, and you choose where you want to to scan, and then it will scan up and down, and then you click. So I'll show you how that works. And this is the place where it works great when it works, but I find it's still a little glitchy, okay, to get to it. So we'll see what I can do with it. I'll share my Chromebook, and then we'll go from there. Let me see. Okay, so let me share on this one, and
But I'm going to stop my share.
Okay, and can you hear me okay, even though, you know what? Close your eyes and I'll move my camera again so that you don't get seasick, but I'll just put it on top of this. Okay, there, now I'm looking at you and the microphone and everything. So, okay, so let me go back here and I will share. Okay. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is first I will activate the actual switch access. The recording's a lot like this, where I'm trying to talk and do it at the same time, so then I can't get my words out. I apologize. So there we go. We have it activated. And then you're just going to see that it should, oh, I don't have auto scanning. That's what I don't. So now it's going to show you that. So auto scanning, if I go up here, I keep it turned off because I really don't like auto scanning, but I need you to see it. You do need to see it. So we're going to come down here and we will, whoops. No, I don't want to do that. Options. Okay. So I'm going to enable auto scan. Okay. And now you'll see it's just going to scan. And you'll see that it goes around the screen and it's trying to decide what things you might want. And so to select it, you're going to hit the orange button for mine that I set up as the select button. So if I do this, I'm going to just select right here and see, then it makes it small. So it just selected to shrink it. So I'm looking over here because I can see you guys over here, but I can't see you over here. So, and so that's how I can select it. And now it's just going to go around this screen and select, and you would choose what you might want to select. And so, and then when you see that little arrow that goes at the top, that's actually going to go back a level, basically, is what it's selecting. So here I'm going to say, okay, select this bar, and I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to select my Chrome again, so it'll open up my Chrome. Okay, so do you see? So for getting around the browser, auto scan isn't a bad option. I tried to use it with the Choose It Ready Maker and it did not work. So it didn't seem to work within apps as well as it did to just get around the Chromebook. So now I'm going to actually turn off auto scan, and I want to show you that point scan. So
Linda, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So when it framed like the menu bar where it was framing the top, if you select that, will it then scan smaller items? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like when I did the bar at the bottom, I guess they call that the task tray, and it went across. Did you? I can show you that again before I turn it off.
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, no, I'm glad you did. But as you're seeing now that this is up, it's not scanning that task tray down below. It's only scanning the web page. So I'm going to go ahead and I will do it here. And now it should scan. Do you see how it's scanning the three options right there?
Yes.
The minimize, okay. Or you can go back. So this is actually good that you said that, because see, now I'm going to hit it when it goes back to that arrow. And then it should go back to scanning everything. Do you see what I mean? It goes back up a level to what it's going to scan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so they've done a little bit of development to try to move closer to other types of scanning.
Right.
But still pretty laborious if you think about your switch users, even higher level switch users. There might be there are other devices that are going to let them navigate the device a little more seamlessly, I think, from what
Okay,
I see.
because I feel like it navigates the device. It's when I use it within the apps that I don't feel like this is a great option. But you're right, it's still laborious. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the on-screen keyboard just because I think it will start scanning it correctly. Do you see how it scans correctly? It looks like it's going to work beautifully. And so then I'm going to choose a line, and then it will scan across. And then I can choose one of the, letters. What I found is it's working beautifully, but it doesn't work within the apps. And so I think it's worth checking back because it's like they're developing it. They've got some great features being developed, but it hasn't quite gotten to that point where it works really well. I tried it within Docs and within Gmail, and the on-screen keyboard didn't work well when I was in this mode. So it looks like they're getting there because it's doing it very nicely, but it's not actually doing it within the apps that you would need the keyboard for. So does that make sense? Okay. So,
yes.
All right. So, but what I will do is I'm going to see if it'll go back and see if I can't get it to at least shrink the keyboard down. I'll see if I can do that in a reasonable amount of time here. So let me see if it'll go to so then I choose to get out of that line and hopefully, nope, this is what happens, that it sometimes just stays in its own little world and doesn't go to the world I want it in that I selected for it. So, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use my mouse to turn off auto scanning. And, we have that advantage. Our students don't. So if they're really using it, so that's a little, okay. So I tried to get to the settings. What I found is you want to let it get off of, it was auto scanning there. You want to let it get off of that if you want to get to them. And then let me make this big again. And I'm going to turn off auto scanning. Okay. All right. So auto scanning is off. So now I'm going to be using scanning that just I'll use by next, and my select. So step scanning is what we call it. But then we can use this point scanning speed. So let me close this. And then I'm going to make this big again. And now I should be able to advance it by I'm hitting the blue. I hope you guys can see that. I'm hitting, okay.
Your select switch.
Yeah, thank you. The blue next switch, the one that goes next.
Oh, okay,
so
next.
Now it will go between these. And so then as you see, I can still have those same options. So I hit select, and now I am scanning through here by hitting the blue switch to go next, and then I can choose to not do that. So I got out and got off of that layer. I'm going to hit the select switch twice, and it didn't do what I want there. This is where you get to point scanning. What is odd is you hit the select switch, and then this little menu is supposed to come up. If it doesn't come up, what I have found is if I hit it 2 times or 3 times, I can usually get it to come up. And then you'll get this little menu that you can pull up the keyboard. You can do dictation, you can do point scanning, or you can go back to settings. I want to go to point scanning because I want to show you what that is. So I'm going to hit my blue next, and now I'm going to hit my orange select. And now I get this where I can choose a section of the keyboard to do this for. And it started with this small one, and that's not what I wanted. So, but I'm just going to pretend I wanted it because I'm hoping it's going to, and then you'll get this. But what I really want it to do is go up to the X so I can start the scan over, and now it will go across the whole page. So you have to finish the scan it wanted to start. So now I'm going to open my web page up again. And so I am going to try, and I have this set to go pretty fast. You can change the speed at which this goes, because obviously a regular switch user would not do that. So I'm going to stop it so that it'll select my Chrome. And now I can hit a left click and it'll open my Chrome browser again. And at this point, I can actually go back and I will get it to open my Choose It Maker again. And it doesn't really matter where I stop it, left to right at that point. But
and you can change the width of the menu bar if you need to.
So, and so then it can do this and I can choose the circle if I want to. So, but this didn't work as nicely. I'm actually gonna go ahead and go back up here. Oh, you know what? Just a second. This is, I wanted to open, I wanted to do, sorry, I'm gonna actually stop this and I can just do this. I just stop it anywhere because I want to go and start a whole new scan. And so at this point, I can do that. I'm going to open a new window. So I'm getting to this plus. It opens a new window. And at this point, I'm going to open my home page, which is Setsi. So I'm going to get across to where that home page marker is. And I could do a right click here, or I could scan an item, but I just want to open this page. So I'm going to hit select again. And you'll see that my Setsi homepage will come up. So that's the point scanning. So I'm going to stop sharing at this point. Okay, so did that make sense? What? Oh, I'm going to move this. Oh, actually, I don't have to. I can just stay here. But did that make sense how that point scanning worked? And
yes.
And could you see how that could help a higher level user actually activate some things on their Chromebook? That might be a more beneficial usage for somebody that's a little more high level. So
if they have the patience of Job.
Yeah,
right.
and so maybe
Well,
searching the internet, because you said the keyboard does work to search, but if it got to, they wanted to open a Google Doc and compose text, then we're like, oh, there's other options that are gonna be way better.
That's what I found. Yeah, that's what I found. So.
All right, well, it is 5:02, so I'm gonna do our little kind of final thoughts. Kind of one of the things, if you've got someone who's an early switch user working on some early beginning switch skills, I think the Chromebook is a great tool, especially if you're using some type of interface like Linda was using that plugs into the Chromebook, because then I think you don't have to deal with the Bluetooth being glitchy. If you've got an advanced switch user like my senior in high school, he had to get swapped out for a regular laptop to do what he needed to do. This is college bound, I mean, he's doing all sorts of things that, and most of the adults I know who are switch users are not using a Chromebook. They're using like an iPad or their iPhone or a Mac or a PC. Or Surface or something like that. So that would be the time when I know just some districts are definitely very, we're only getting Chromebooks, but I think if you've got someone who you see has really expanded beyond some of the stages of switch skills and is really ready to start getting on the internet and doing searches and doing, you know, composition and cutting and pasting and dragging and coding and video editing, and because they're out there, that's where we want them all to be. You're going to need to advocate for a different piece of equipment for them, because the Chromebook is not going to, at this point, get them there. But they're always changing it, always upgrading it. So I'm hopeful that someday it will be right in there, in line with everybody else. But it's getting closer. So thank you so much for joining us today. Any last questions? All right.
I just
Thank you, Bo.
So Heidi, I just wanted to mention, we did create a shared Google Doc. If you guys do explore this and you find some tips or some, just look, we found this out, this works. Please feel free. We could just make this a document we keep going. So, because really this is kind of new on the Chromebook. And so it's kind of nice if we all share what we're finding. So.
All right. Oh, I think I just lost you guys somewhere. Are you still there?
We are. We can still see you.
Okay.
And then if you have a specific question, like you were thinking of something very specific, you thought maybe one of your Switch users could access, reach out to any three of us to maybe look into further if there's something specific you wanted them to access.
All right. Have a lovely evening. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to email any of us.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.